Welcome back, everyone. Craig here. Today I wanted to do a little video on trucking crashes and trucking companies. I really enjoy doing trucking cases. I don't have a lot of them. I'm in no way am I an expert on it. I was just talking about this book on LinkedIn this morning. This is a book, Big Rig Justice. Michael Cowan, who has a podcast, he's the author of this, and highly recommend this book. So if you do any kind of trucking litigation like I do, this is a really good book. It's not super cheap, but you get what you pay for. So if you do any kind of trucking litigation, if you're an attorney or anything like that, highly recommend it. I wish I would have had this book when I did my first trucking case, but I have it now. So anyway, I am in a lawsuit with a trucking company that I've sued before. And so and that was kind of how I got this case, is that another lawyer who represented some folks who were injured in a crash with this company reached out to me to see if and they saw the sort of the court documents on this other one and asked if I would come in and work on this case. So I did, agreed, and it's interesting because in the prior case, I had really dug deep into that company, gotten into their safety records, um, which were not very good. Their scores with the it's a safety measurement system is a program of like the federal DOT. I'm not even sure that the name of the actual agency that handles it. But if you see a semi, dump truck, commercial motor vehicle going down the highway, you'll see like their little DOT numbers on the side of the truck. They have to have that. It's sort of like sort of like your social security number for trucking companies. But if they want to do any kind of interstate, at least, I don't know if it's required for intrastate. So if you're just driving within a state, but I think even then most states are going to require them to register. But if there's any kind of crossing state lines, going across boundaries for trucking companies, typically they're going to have to be licensed with the federal agency that regulates them. And that agency tracks a lot of different data. Um, it tracks data both on equipment or vehicles and drivers, and how that all gets divided up, I'm not sure, because this particular company actually has multiple sort of I don't know, child companies or parent companies. They have multiple companies within their organizations, and they have different DOT numbers. I think probably most companies just have one name, one license, and so all the drivers and all the equipment fall under that. And so it measures things like anytime there's speeding tickets, seatbelt violations, overweight violations, uh, things like that, things that the drivers did wrong. It gathers that data both against the driver and against the company, and then they assign a score to those companies based, and I have no idea how the algorithm works, but there's a formula for giving them a score based on how many speeding tickets and different traffic violations they get relative to how many drivers they have and relative to how many inspections or times they're pulled over, all that kind of stuff. And then they measure things like equipment violations. So when a lot of times, and this may not always be the case, but let's say a trucker is pulled over for speeding. Oftentimes that's going to result in some sort of an equipment inspection, maybe a full-blown, we're going to put you on the scales, make sure you're overweight, not overweight. Could be more, but check the tires. Are they properly inflated? Are the brakes working correctly? Are all the lights and bulbs and markers and all that kind of stuff working? those are the kinds of things that happen in an inspection, and um, these get reported to the feds and probably to the state. But either way, the data gets collected, and so the company will also get a score in terms of how good their vehicles are, how good the maintenance is, how many times when a vehicle is inspected, how many equipment violations do they have. I think there's sort of a common assumption that you give them enough time, they'll find something wrong with your truck or your trailer, whatever the case may be. Hours of service, that's a common one. Not so much an issue with the companies that I deal with that are more local companies. They're not driving coast to coast or anything like that. Driver fitness. Do they do the things that are required? Background checks, like they're required to get a driver safety file when they hire someone. Medical test. If there's a crash, I think usually they're required to go get a random urine sample, things like that. Do they keep up their insurance? If they haul hazardous materials, are they doing that properly? Do they have the signage and all that kind of stuff? So every company has sort of a database, and I think the federal folks retain information based on like the last two years, and they can assign a safety rating, things like that. So anyway, I had sued this company for a guy that was really badly injured in a crash of the dump truck. We resolved that case on very favorable terms. And part of that was because I had really dug in and put together really what was a pretty bad safety record and all that. I had and I had minutes from all their safety meetings, which were pretty amazing in terms of the unflattering information for them that they would include in those minutes. So I had all that, and then I get involved with this new case, and I'm like, okay, well, I already know what to go ask for. I know kind of where the skeletons lie. And so this has sort of been, about 2 years since the last case. And so I requested all the same stuff up until now. And you could just tell exactly how my past lawsuit with them, once we wrapped it up, they changed a number of things. One of the things that they changed, which was really funny, is they went from these very detailed safety minutes down to very generic bullet points. Because I really took them to task because they just the stuff that they included in their safety meetings, and really the bad advice they were giving to their drivers was all in their notes from these meetings. They stopped including that in their minutes. Doesn't mean they don't talk about it, but that now it's all oral. There's no recordings of these things. So this particular company, in response to being sued, um, basically cut back on the transparency. They also, it seems, shifted some trucks and drivers around to help their scores and things like that. So, and I get it. Like, I get business owners want to do things to save money or whatever, but you can just see sort of the games being played in the background when they get caught with these things. And so I really enjoy the trucking litigation. I really like just the complexity and just learning new things, learning things like GPS trackers, um, you know, onboard cameras. More and more trucks are being included with black box data and stuff like that. And I really enjoy like the reconstruction parts of things. So anyway, I just I really wanted to talk about that because I really do enjoy the trucking litigation. And I also want to say this. Um, uh, Trucking litigation is some of it is the same. You tend to have more serious injuries, more catastrophic injuries, as you might expect. If someone is hit by an 18-wheeler versus hit by a minivan, the injuries tend to be more severe. but there's a lot more into it. There's a lot more, I would say, regulations and standard of care things that apply to the trucking companies that may not apply to, just us average folks out driving on the road. And so it's really important, especially if you're an attorney and this is maybe your first case, talk to someone. I'm always happy to talk to people. So my contact information is below. Just reach out to me, send me an email. Get Cowan's book. There's others out there, but this one I think, if you need a place to start, try this one. He's got a podcast. I follow his podcast. He's got a Facebook group and all that kind of stuff too, if you really want to get into it. But um, I wanted to throw that out there, both for other lawyers and for people, especially if you're involved in one of those situations. There's a crash and involves a commercial motor vehicle. You might be surprised at how many of those crashes, even though it looks like the driver did everything right or the company did everything right, there could very well be some things that would have avoided the crash or made it less severe. And that's why it's really important to talk to a lawyer about those things. At least consult. There's no cost to you. Find a lawyer in the state that you're in. Reach out to me if you're in, Wisconsin, Minnesota, or Iowa, or if you're not, I can certainly try and put you in touch with someone that can help you there. But anyway, if you have any questions about that, feel free to leave a comment. If you have more of a legal question, don't leave a comment. Just go in the description, get on the link tree, and send me an email or something like that. I'm happy to respond and provide you with some guidance of where you can go from there. So thank you for listening, everyone, and until next time, have a good one.